They reside in these dark, shadowy corners that you might be afraid of, or in fact, that you are afraid of, because that's the point. The fact that you're afraid of them and that you don't go into those places, that's why you don't have those things. You don't have the things from the places you haven't gone to. Hey you, I'm Mark, husband of one, father of three, maker of puns, climber of trees, grower of businesses, pitcher of tents, occasional cutter of cheese, word nerd and lover of families. Oh no, not yet. No. Oh, here he comes. Where's my oar? Showed that Kraken who's boss. At least until like 2 p.m. this afternoon. I think I'll be due for another attack by then. Let's jump into it. Hey, welcome to all of you, bandits and chilies. This episode is called A New Devil at Every Level. Let me tell you a story. It's a myth, but just because it didn't happen doesn't mean that it isn't true. Even though it never happened, that doesn't stop it from happening every day. Long ago, there was a lowly peasant boy with dreams beyond his own comprehension. He wanted to become the strongest man in the kingdom with enough gold to uplift his mother, father, brothers, sisters, his entire village. He had never tasted the life of which he dreamed, but he somehow knew the exact feeling of it. He had heard rumours, whispers about an old sage far to the north who he had become convinced could help him to realise his dreams. One frosty spring morning, he set off with all the supplies that he could carry, which was practically all that he could have acquired in any case. He didn't have a map, he didn't have a name, but he trekked north in search of an idea. After journeying for over a month, he had finally found the old sage Rithma. He lived in an unassuming hut near the edge of an unassuming forest. He was wiry and weathered, with sinewy arms, a crooked staff, and robes stitched from faded maps. He seemed completely neutral to the arrival of the peasant boy, not surprised nor excited, welcoming, but not overly so. The boy explained his vision, his dreams, and his journey. The old sage spoke very few words in reply. He neither fanned the flames of the boy's passion, nor stamped them out. Eventually, he broke eye contact with him from across the small fire between them, and stood up with the aid of his staff. He sifted through some jars and ornaments on a shelf, and eventually pulled out a wooden box. He opened the box to reveal a dozen scrolls of leather and traced his fingers across them with familiarity, finally pulling out one from the top row. "Take this," he said to the boy. "Take care to follow all its instructions meticulously, and you shall have everything that you desire. There are only 2 additional cautions. You must open the scroll only so far as to see the next step, never more, and you must never return to my home." As the boy left from Rithma's hut, he really couldn't decide how he felt about the old man, nor how the old man felt about him. Light was gone, and he needed to find shelter, so he wasn't able to read the start of the scroll until the next day. He opened it with care, not because of its age, but so as to be sure as to not see more than what he was supposed to. It was a recipe, and the first ingredient that it called for was oddly specific: the petal of the wind vine. Even though it was a single ingredient, the section of scroll was extremely detailed about how to locate this specific petal. The wind vine only grew at the top of the sky spire tree, a tree so tall that it disappeared into the clouds. His quest for these ingredients, provided to him one at a time per the old man's instructions, took him diving to the bottom of icy rivers, climbing to the tops of mountains, seeking shelter from the winter which had come early in a village that was almost as inhospitable as the long nights and the thick snow. He was cheated, he was beaten, he was mocked, and yet his quest continued. The final steps of the recipe called for a mixture of hand-milled flour and a thick clay dug from deep earth amongst the roots of the sky spire tree. He had to mix all of the gathered ingredients into a thick, heavy paste using a mortar carved from the skull of a mountain bear. It needed to be stirred 1,000 times by hand, and then rolled into a ball. The last portion of the scroll then revealed that the mixture was poisonous, highly dangerous for human consumption, and should be carefully disposed of. The man now realized that the recipe was the result. He was never intended to eat it. He just had to become the kind of person who could gather it. In the course of this, he had learnt how to handle himself, he had become incredibly strong and insanely resilient, and had developed the tools needed to build himself the rest of the way to his dream. This little random story is, I believe, helpful in unlocking the other side of an influential idea which helped me to conceptualize the different levels of business and finding your "you are here" marker on the map. This is Joshua Latimer's 5 stages of business. So just a quick run through of that. Each stage is defined by what you spend the majority of your time within the business doing. Stage 1 is technician. You're in the field, cleaning the windows, washing the deck, doing the deliverable the majority of your work time. Stage 2 is administrative. Maybe you're still in the field, but you can hardly get any work done because you spend all of your time on the phone. You're answering emails, you're catching the sticky notes falling from your dash. Stage 3 is sales. Your job now is to ensure that the beast is fed and that there is enough work to secure payroll for your team. That's where the majority of your time is. Stage 4 is general manager, with 3 department heads under you taking care of production, admin, and sales respectively. You are leading the leaders rather than herding the cats. Stage 5 is owner, which means that you have hired a general manager and therefore you are not tied to the business's day-to-day operations. Everything is outsourced. Everything is someone else's job. Like I said, this concept and the way that Josh has explained this in the past has helped a lot of people out, including myself. But this is very tactical. It's you are here, therefore you need to fix this, hire that person, do that, and then you can get to the next level. Boom. It's like a map. It's like a formula, and it's really helpful to have that. But here's the thing I've learned from my own experience and from talking with others. It's like that recipe from the old sage. The recipe works, but the actual reason that the recipe works is almost entirely unrelated to the ingredients within it. This isn't about better systems or more leads. It's about who you have to become in order to handle the next level. It's about you actually demonstrating the willingness and grit to figure out how to acquire those ingredients. To illustrate this, let's take another story, but this one is literally true. In 2021, Brandon Vaughan launched his Map to a Million series, which you can find on YouTube. He started a home service business from scratch with just a $20,000 budget in a brand new industry that he didn't have experience with. That business is Wise Coatings, and today, just over 4 years later, they have franchised into 27 locations across the US. This might anger you. Maybe you just don't believe it. Maybe you find it frustrating. Maybe it just breaks your brain a little. I've felt that. But here's the point of why I'm bringing this up. Brandon set out to do this to make a point and to lay out a map to a million. Great. But obviously, he was doing that because this wasn't his first rodeo. Walking the path the first time is completely different than walking it again once you've already climbed that mountain. Think about this. Where are you right now in your business, and how long did it take you to get there? Let's say that you're currently doing $40,000 a month and that it's taken you 5 years to get there. If you had to start from scratch tomorrow, how long would it take you to get back to $40,000 a month? It wouldn't take you 5 years, right? I'm genuinely curious to hear your answer to this. Yeah, you with the left ear, you with the right ear. Let me know in our school group or on our Facebook page. How long would it take you to get back to the stage that you are at now if you had to start again tomorrow? Why is it that it would be so much quicker for you to get to where you are now from nothing? Because you have become the kind of person who, in that example, runs a $40,000 a month business or whatever it is. You've not only seen the terrain before, but you have morphed into the role of the $40,000 a month business owner. So even if you stripped away the actual things that make your business operate at that level, all of that is still a part of you, And all of that can grow back really quickly. But to get to a new level is a lot more difficult because you have to break through those barriers for the first time. And each one of those barriers that you have to break through for the first time has a combination of things that makes it really difficult for you to get through. It has that requirement of identity shift, which is often really murky and abstract and nebulous and hard to understand or not even talked about at all. So that can be really difficult to actually make the identity and mentality shifts required to do the things that are required to allow you to grow into that next level. Another thing is that the treasure you seek is in the cave that you're most afraid to enter, right? So the things that you don't know, or even more difficult yet, the things that you don't know, they reside in these dark, shadowy corners that you might be afraid of, or in fact, that you are afraid of, because that's the point. The fact that you're afraid of them and that you don't go into those places, that's why you don't have those things. You don't have the things from the places you haven't gone to. And so when you make it a practice to regularly face the cave that you fear to enter, you quickly learn that it wasn't as bad as you were expecting. And you also learn that the dragon guarding that cave is guarding some treasure. And so you go to the place that you fear, you find that the dragon wasn't as difficult to slay as you were expecting, and you get a reward for having done so. So it's easier then to build that habit and that practice once you start seeing the reward of doing it. And your fear around a topic, the thing that if you can just reliably identify what it is that you're fearing to do, that is such a reliable compass of the area in which you need to grow. Because we fear what we don't understand. Our mind, our body, our nervous system, which is really the holistic connection between the two, it does not optimize for growth. Not at all. It is not at all interested in growth. You have these ideas and desires, but all that your nervous system is optimizing for is familiarity. It's not optimizing for you to do the thing that you've never done so that you can have the thing that you've never had. It's optimizing for you to keep doing the exact same thing that you've always done so that you don't lose what you've already got. We are much more loss averse than we are averse to missing an opportunity or to not getting something, not gaining something that we do not yet have. We optimize for comfort and safety. Everything that you have done up until this point in your life, your central nervous system is quite comfortable and safe with that to the extent that it knows, well, you're still alive. So it's working out quite well on some level, right? So even if they might be completely suboptimal in terms of the inputs and outputs and whatever the results that it's getting in terms of the things that you desire and want to grow into, even though that may be the case, it is optimal for the sake of it being known, it being familiar, and those familiar known parts, there's a few levels to this. Firstly, the neurological connections in your mind, they say that the neurons that fire together wire together. Your default behaviors will revert back to what is familiar. If you have snacks in a particular spot on your kitchen bench, and every time you make a cup of tea, you grab a biscuit from this particular biscuit tin, right? That behavior, you don't have to think about it. It just becomes automatic. So if you want to change that, then one of the really key ways that you can do so is by changing the environment and removing the biscuits from it. Because it's really hard to change that sort of behavior if you don't change the environment because it's so familiar. This is just what we do. We come here, we have the tea. Whilst we wait for the kettle to boil, we eat a biscuit. And then once the kettle's boiled and we've made the tea, we have another biscuit with the tea. Or whatever the case might be, right? It's a silly little example, but that is happening in terms of familiarity. Or we could liken it to your mind being like a jungle full of vines or really long grass. And you have point A and point B, and the well-trodden path is, well, it's just that. It's a path. It's a clear path. And the pathway to the thing that you haven't done yet, that you're not familiar with, that you want but are not yet in the practice of, that's overgrown. That's all jungle. That's all grass. It's all vines. And it's hard work. You have to get the machete out. You have to get scraped up and bumped and bruised and whatever to instill that path, to build that path. And then once you've built that path, you need to simultaneously ignore the other path to death. You need to let it grow over. Because otherwise, what's going to happen, it's like you do this path a few times, but it's still scrappy. It's not familiar. It's a new route, and it's harder. It takes more effort, more willpower, and whatever. So you're going to default to the well-worn path. We've been doing it this way for 4 years. Like, let's just go that way. Why are we going this new way? I like the old way. As you're getting scratched and tired, your brain is whispering, why don't we just go back to the old path? It's over there, bozo. And it's real easy, and it's safe and familiar. I don't know what it is with you and this brand new trail that you're trying to blaze, but cut it out. So simultaneously, with building the new pathway, we need to ignore to death the old pathway and all that that entails. So in relation to building into a new level, there will be things that are not necessarily problematic. It's just a case of what got you here won't get you there. If you, in order to get your first $10,000 a month consistently, you were doing all of the jobs, and your approach was, let's just say that you were door knocking. You get some jobs booked, you did the jobs, and then you door knocked, you did more jobs, and then you door knocked, and you did more jobs. And so you've tethered together your marketing activities here to your delivery activities. But then what's going to get you to the next level in delegation of getting someone else to be the one doing the jobs requires an identity shift. It requires a behavior shift. It requires sort of breaking this pattern of what you're doing, where you're mixing these two things together. And now you need to train someone to do the thing that you're doing. And you need to train yourself to disconnect those two things that you were working on simultaneously, because now you're just going to be focusing on one of them, for example, in how you're moving to that next level. So just the simple change of action is an identity shift. If you imagine working in 4 different companies for a year each, you were a cleaner, and then you switched companies and you were a receptionist, and then you switched companies and you became a sales rep, and then you moved to a different company and you were on the board of directors. Your roles are completely different. Naturally, your identity would shift when someone says, "Hi, I'm Clyde, what do you do?" You would feel different about your entire self when you said, "I'm a cleaner," compared to "I'm a sales rep," etc. Your schedules would be completely different. Your work time would be spent completely differently. Your KPIs, the things that are required of you to be successful in each of those roles, is completely different. The trick within your service business is that all of those things are cleverly disguised as one thing, which makes it hard for you to grow into the new identity required because you never stopped feeling like the cleaner. And there's nothing wrong with being a cleaner, by the way. It's not that the identity is problematic. It's just that it is not compatible with the goals that a lot of people set for themselves. People have these goals that are uniquely compatible with a totally different level than where they are at, and yet their identity is firmly fixed in place at their current level or even at a previous level. So ask yourself, what's the thing I'm currently avoiding? I know that I need to do it, but I'm not doing it. Pay attention to this because you might be really good at self-deception and you might not even recognize it as avoidance. You know, I was genuinely busy. I had this and that and the third to deal with. Like, sure, but there's a new tire fire each week in your business. And maybe on some level, you are ensuring that whatever that happens to be gets in the way of the thing that you know that you need to be facing. What's the thing I know I need to do, but haven't yet done? Where is it that fear is running the show? Your next level, your next breakthrough is not a tactic, it's not a hire, it's not a piece of software. It might involve any or all of those things, but it isn't the actual literal ingredients that matter so much as you do. Your next level is a version of you that you haven't met yet. And to meet them, you're going to have to enter that cave. Maybe you're scared of meeting that version of you on some level. And maybe on another level, the current version of you is scared of being replaced. I mean, that sounds pretty scary, right? Again, your central nervous system is optimizing for things being safe, the same, normal, familiar. And then you come in here with all of your hopes and dreams and you want to change everything. That's just not how things work around here, mate. We've been doing this a while and it hasn't gotten us killed yet. That is the attitude that you're dealing with from your central nervous system. It's that annoying old guy who refuses to use this newfangled email thing because a fax machine just has a more personal touch. If you built your business doing all of the jobs yourself, then delegating for the first time isn't just about trust or time. It's about stepping out of the only role you've ever known in that business. Let's walk through Josh's 5 stages of business, but less so from the perspective of the ingredients, the tactics, and the needs of each stage, more so from the lens of how those stages require you to shift your identity. I'm going to break stage 1 into 2 parts, because starting from absolute zero is a huge thing in and of itself. Actually, starting your business and committing to it as your primary or sole source of income is a huge freaking deal. Depending on your background, that identity shift could be the biggest one of all. You have gone from the seeming security of your 9-to-5 job, and now you're out there on your own, living day to day, week to week, it feels like. Will I hunt and gather enough this week? You've got no idea what you're doing. There's an obscene amount of the unknown unknowns, and every little thing feels scary and possibly illegal. If this is you, high five. Well done for jumping out of the plane to build your parachute on the way down. At this level, the identity changes are grappling with the fears of getting it wrong and allowing that to paralyze you. The key thing to slay this particular dragon is action. Stay in action, keep momentum, and that allows you to iterate and figure it out. You'll make a lot of mistakes, so you might as well make them fast. Try not to waste money, instead focus on making mistakes with your time instead. That way, when you make the mistakes quickly, you learn and get through the stage quickly on a discount because you're spending less time to make more mistakes. You're going to make them anyway, might as well get them done as fast as possible. Now, stage 1 in earnest, after you have a bit more of an established consistency with your business, the work is there, you're able to pay your bills, you eat at least 3 to 5 square meals per week, you now likely settle into the identity of the technician. I am the window cleaner, I am the pressure washer. So a huge identity shift here is releasing control and building trust that it is in fact possible that someone else can do it like you. This is a really big one because if you do not believe that, you will not find that person. How could you? It's like if you told me to go and find a green unicorn in a 5-kilometer radius from my house. I am not even bothering to go outside and look. I don't believe it's there. So if you don't believe that you can find an employee who can check notes, clean gutters and wash driveways, if you don't think that you can find someone, you won't. Take solace in the fact that Elon is out there finding people who can launch rockets. Your local hospital needs to have someone who can thread a needle through a baby's beating heart while it's still in the womb just to open a valve the size of a pinhead, okay? It gives some perspective on how unique your skill set is when it comes to the thing that you're doing. Not throwing any shade, I'm sure that you're amazing at it, but you can find someone else who can be great at this as well, and then that allows you to level up. Stage 2, admin. This can feel much more delicate to let go of than the squeegee. Now you need to say the right words in the right way on the phone and via email to deal with all manner of customer inquiries, complaints, all of it. The degree of complexity is increased. If you try to outsource scheduling, for example, that is a steep learning curve all around because you just automatically do a lot of the things that make sense. You know the business inside and out. In addition to more of the same kinds of identity shift in parallel with stage 1, stage 2 adds the need to level up your communication and documentation. Maybe this can feel too corporate, too tight, too controlling. That is your identity level pushing back against a change. Admin in a home service business is a complex amalgamation of tasks, especially starting out and cramming loads of different admin tasks into one single role. It requires that you get a bit more organized and maybe take those things a bit more seriously than you have done thus far. Stage 3, sales. Stage 3, sales. A crucial part of this stage is the need for you to focus on sales. Obviously, you've been doing sales up until this point, but now it is the majority shareholder of your time because you need to feed the beast that is your business. People are depending on you. The fact that they are can help you to make a bit of the identity shift that is needed. And that identity shift is essentially that sales are morally good. Did that make you uncomfortable? Did you bristle at that a little bit? Do you think, well, maybe sometimes, but surely not all sales? Okay, sales in themselves, I would say, are morally neutral, but your sales in your business are morally good if you do the thing that you sold them you were going to do. And that thing is not evil, right? If you're a hitman, okay, like maybe it's not good even if you make the sale and do the thing that you said you were going to do. But if your thing is not evil and you just do the thing that you said you were going to do, which got you the sale, then it is morally good because you are delivering a solution to someone who has a problem. And the ripple effect, the flow-on effect from that is huge. Sales allows you to create jobs, to shape lives, to build things that don't yet exist, to provide solutions that people cannot get elsewhere. This is a whole rabbit hole, and I don't want to get derailed here, but this is a big identity shift for most business owners. It starts with recognizing what effect your actions actually have. Once you start to think about that, then it allows you to build a mountain of evidence in support of that identity shift. Stage 4, General Manager. This is a whole new level of relinquishing control and a whole new level of leadership. I'm not going to comment too heavily on this because I am personally not at this stage. I do not have a department head for admin, sales, and production respectively. However, a quick little note about the coolest thing about our business, without yet reaching this stage, we have been running our business remotely for nearly 3 years now. Okay, last stage, stage 5, owner. Obviously, I'm also not at this stage, but I imagine that the feeling associated with leaving the team on the tools whilst you go and do things that are not on the tools would all surface again here. Anytime you take off from a task that you were doing and you need to reallocate that time, that's hard and it requires an identity shift. But in the case of the owner level, you are not reallocating that time within the business specifically because at that level, all of the roles are cared for and that is not what's required of you. Any time that you do choose to reinvest back into the business or anything in excess of essentially monitoring what's going on is a choice that you're making and maybe is a choice that you're making for the sake of not having leveled up to that degree of identity. Like I said, I'm not commenting on this hugely because that's just not where I'm at, but this would be a great problem to have and one that I hope to face one day. Another identity shift which really transcends all of those levels, I would say, is imposter syndrome. Whatever level you are at, and then whatever level you are trying to move into, there is this period where you are essentially acting in a way that is not aligned with who you think you are. And that's just a natural part of what it means to grow, because you need to grow into the thing in order to become the thing. I used this example early on in one of my podcast episodes of, am I a podcaster? I didn't really feel like that at the time. To some degree, I still don't really feel like that now. But the reality is I'm doing the thing, right? I have a podcast. I have I think this is like episode 28 or something. I do the thing and it presents in a way where it's like, okay, what is the definition of a podcaster? Well, I guess it's somebody who has a podcast, right? So if that's the case, then identifiably I am a podcaster. But the identity shift comes later. So if you are moving, for example, from stage 2 of admin into stage 3 of sales, and you're really getting heavily into sales and needing to be that sales rep, and you're just trying to wrap your head around this idea of sales being morally good and everything that goes along with that, you do to some extent have to fake it until you make it, because you can't build that identity by not doing the thing. You have to lean into the imposter syndrome. You have to accept that that is just the reality of what growing means. And then you have to eventually just come to the realization that it's no longer imposter syndrome, because you actually have this mountain, this stack of evidence, as Alex Hormozy refers to it as, the stack of proof that you are who you say you are. So let's summarize this really quickly. What do you want from your business? Do you actually want that? Are you sure? Okay, now given your central nervous system's propensity for wanting things to not change, what obstacles will that present for you in getting the thing you want? If you'd like to chat more about this, book a free clarity call, link in the description. That's it. Have an awesome day. Make someone else's day awesome. I love you, just the appropriate amount. Like, take whatever is weird and then take a healthy step backwards from that line. That's exactly how much. If it's weird, you're the weirdo. Catch ya. Bye. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Are you sniffing what I'm stepping in? If you're looking for a really valuable community centered around building your business, being really intentional with your spouse and kids, and if you think you can tolerate my terrible dad jokes, then join Family-Oriented Business Growers. It's awesome. There's self-paced challenges designed to help you solve key pain points within your business in short, intentional sprints. There's awesome people in there doing awesome things who have experience with stuff that can help you, having stood where you stand. You'll benefit from what's in there, we'll benefit from having you in there, you legend you, and best of all, it's totally free and also free of toxic shenanigans, because we don't tolerate none of that. The mission of the group is to help 250 family-oriented home service business owners reclaim 5 hours per week for what matters most whilst growing their business this year. So jump in there and get amongst it. Join via warplan.au. That's warplan.au. Oh no. He's early. Warplan.au. Catch you in there. Yeah!